Hi guys, it's Emily from Novel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is top mums in books. I was going to say favourite mums in books, but I think top mums in books sounds great because I don't have a favourite. Not really anyway. But seeing as it's Mother's Day in the UK this Sunday, which will be the 27th of March, I wanted to do a video celebrating mums, be it mums by blood, be it foster mums, be it grandmothers, because they're mothers as well, be it surrogate mums. Mums come in many forms. That is something I've learned over my life. I have my mum, who I love with all my heart. I've had extra mums growing up. I've had my mum's best friend Margaret, who's one of my mum's best friends, Margaret. She's like an extra mum, her friend Iris. So my mum's friends have helped me growing up. They've become like mother-like figures. Over the years, in various different groups I've been in, I've gained extra mums. I have Chris's mum, who's my unofficial mother-in-law, who I love. And I'm a mum myself now. And my mum was a foster mum. And I also have extra like surrogate kids that come in and out of my house and that I've grown to love. Like my daughter Mia's best friend, Amina, she is sort of like an extra daughter to me. And I have children that are like extra nieces and nephews. And they're like mother-like figures, you know. Being a mum is the best job in the world. And if you would have told me, 10 years ago when I was expecting Mia, like this time 10 years ago, I had quite a sized bump. It was quite a tiny baby, so it was a little bump. But if you would have told me the love I would have felt for being a mum, I would not have believed it. Now, I always wanted to be a mum. That was a job I always wanted to do. And I love my mum very much, and seeing her be a surrogate mum to extra people, seeing her be a foster mum, having her own children, and obviously my grandmothers, it was something I always wanted to do. Now, I was unlucky. I'll be honest with you guys, when I had Mia, I had very severe postnatal depression. So when she was handed to me after a very traumatic labour, I didn't feel that connection. And I thought being a mum was something that you just naturally, it was something that just came into you. And as soon as they put you in your arms, you would feel this love and everything else. And I'll be honest, she got handed to me, I was like petrified, because I knew from that moment on, my life was changed. She was a tiny baby. She was only like £5, 15 ounces, even though she wasn't prem. And I was like, I have this tiny thing that's going to be reliant on me for her whole life. Because even when we're adults, I was like, well, no, I put my mum through, and my sisters put my mum through. Even though we're like in our 40s, we still need mum at times. And I think even when we lose our mums, we miss our mums. No matter how old we get, the mum bond is incredible. But when it was really weird with Mia, I think I had postnatal depression until she was about 3 months old. And then when I finally admitted that I was struggling, and when I finally got the help I needed, I suddenly got hit by the love I felt for her. And that has grown day by day. I would not say to you guys that being a mum is easy, because it's not. It's the hardest job I've ever done, but it's the best job I've ever done. Because the older she gets, the closer we get. And she's like one of my friends now, as well as my daughter. Don't get me wrong, we fight like cat and dog at times, mainly because me and her are very similar. But it's incredible. And then I got blessed with Thomas after losing a baby in the middle. I had a miscarriage in between my two children. And so my pregnancy with Thomas was fraught. I was very scared. I nearly lost him because I had a DVT while I was pregnant with him. So I had another form of postnatal depression with him, but it was very different, because with him, I wouldn't let him out of my sight. I would not let him I struggled. I made sure that I did give him to other people to hold, because I was determined to be good. But I struggled. And still to this day, like because he was my rainbow baby, and because of various health problems he's had, I am extra protective of him. And I struggle, and that's like an ongoing thing with him. He's my little dude, and he is that. But as he's growing older, he's getting sturdier, and he's now becoming a lot closer to his dad, which is brilliant to watch, because I love that. But yeah, being a mum is like an incredible job, and it's the best job in the world, but it's the hardest job. I'm so silly, because I only worked part-time because I've got chronic pain. But even when I'm at work, I miss them. It's funny, when I'm not with them, I miss them, and I can't wait to get home to see them and to give them cuddles. And then when I'm with them too many times, I don't want to kill them. Like 2 years ago now, we were in our first lockdown, and I was with them all the time. But I thank God for that time, because that was a time I grew closer to my children, and it was only me and them because their dad wasn't working. So it was only me and them for most of the time. And I really got to know them even better. And I think it's quite a positive came out of negative. But I love reading about mums in books. And I want to show you sorry, we had a bit of a rambly time here, but I want to show you some mums in books. Don't always know the names, but I know that characters that have stood out to me for various different reasons. And I'll explain very shortly little bits of them throughout. So the first one is actually a mum that I should have given the other book, which is the book for this, called Mother Forever, which is the prequel to this. And this is the nan in this book called Ruby Castleton. Now, she's actually mother of George, and she's also the mother of, she's got a daughter that's not really in it, but her son George is the father of Sarah Castleton. And Ruby is in this book, and she is like the matriarch of the whole series, and she is probably one of my favourite characters in the whole series because she is the matriarch. She is the mother and the grandmother to everybody. She looks after everybody. She takes them in. And I think Ruby Castleton, to me, really reminds me of my mum's mum, my nan, because she was one that took everyone in. She was the best. She was one of my absolute all-time idols because she had 8 children. She took everyone in. And Ruby really reminds me of my nan because she didn't take any crap. She doesn't take any rubbish. She takes everyone in and loves them for who they are. And that's why I celebrate Ruby Castleton in this series. And I would say A Mother Forever is the prequel to this, and it's a standalone, but it is, like I've said, a prequel. And that is one of my favourite books because it shows how Ruby became the mother and the grandmother to the whole series. And I love her. And I love watching the girls at the start of these books. The 3 leading characters, Sarah, Maisie and Frida, are very different. And watching them grow throughout the series. I cannot wait to read the new one where their girls are the leads in it. So yeah, Ruby Castleton's my favourite. Now the last one, this is the one that I actually only decided this morning, just minutes before filming, and that is Eleanor in this book, The Tidelands. Tidelands is one of my favourite books ever. I don't like Eleanor as much in Dark Tides, which is the sequel to this, but in this, Eleanor has got 2 older children, and how she fights for her children, how she stands up against the poverty. And she does make mistakes. She's very human. And I really like the fact that she is so real in this. And I think that's something that I really think. And she really does stand up because in this, it's set in 1648 in the time of the Civil War. Everyone knows about Tidelands. It's been a book that's been all over BookTube. And it was one of Philippa Gregory's books that aren't in the Tudor era. But I like it because she gets to have a romance. She meets someone called James and stuff happens, but she's still her mum. She's still the mum. She still puts her kids first and tries to protect them, and she would do anything for them. And what happens? Yeah, it's very interesting. And I don't have my own copy of Anne of Green Gables because my mum's got it, I think, or someone's got it, and I can't remember who. But it's not Anne who is my favourite mum in this book. It's actually this is Anne of Windy Willow, so we don't really meet the leading lady, but my favourite mum in this whole Anne series is Morella, because she is, I think she's the guardian of Anne in Anne of Green Gables. I'm not going to show that very properly because it is in Anne of Green Gables that we meet Morella properly. And Morella and her brother take in Anne to help them. They were supposed to take in a boy and they ended up with a girl. And I think everyone knows Anne of Green Gables. But Morella takes in Anne and she grows to love her. And you watch Morella grow throughout the first book, and Morella is in virtually the whole of the Anne of Green Gables series in one form or another, even if it's only briefly in. And she's mentioned because she's a mother figure to Anne. She doesn't want Anne to call her mum, even though she is effectively Anne's mum, because Anne comes into them when she was about 9, I think, and she never leaves Anne's side. She always supports Anne. She looks after Anne. She then also takes in Anne of Avonlea, she takes in 2 twins, Davy and Dora, and she becomes a mum to them. And she takes in these children who are not her blood. I think Dora and Davy are, but she takes them in, she looks after them, she supports them, and she becomes a mum. And she discovers that being a mum is far different to what she expects. And watching her grow and watching her in Anne of Green Gables is one of my favourite books of all time. I love it. I'm loving reading the series with my Anne Along group, and I loving watching Anne grow and wanting to be like Morella. There's books later in the series where Anne becomes a mum, and Anne looks up to Morella, and Morella comes back to help her, and I think it's fantastic. Morella is one of my all-time favourite mums in books as well, and I loved it. Now the next one is a bit of a controversial one, because I don't think everyone would agree with me on this, but we meet Vianne in Chocolat, but to me, her motherhood stands out in the lollipop shoes. I can't tell you too much because it's second in the series, but in this, Vianne takes a different name. I'm not going to tell you what it is. And she has an extra daughter in this called Rosette. And she has Anouk. And in this book, her motherhood comes to the forefront because Anouk, her daughter, they've all got different names in this book, the one they have in Chocolat and in the latter series. But Anouk is actually the character that's one of the lead characters in this book. So even though Vianne is not one of the main characters in this, the storyline's mainly around Anouk and an extra lady, Zoshi, who comes in. The way Vianne protects Anouk and her new daughter, Rosette, who we meet when she's about 5 or 6. Rosette is non-verbal. She doesn't talk, and there are reasons behind that, but the way she supports her daughter who's non-verbal is fantastic. It's brilliant representation of that as well. And they discover how to talk to each other. And it's really great to watch Vianne with her magic, and it's the magic within her and her protectiveness of her children, and I just loved it. I really love Vianne. Vianne in this book is one of my favourites. This is actually my favourite of the series so far. I did love the second. I did love the third, Peaches for Monsieur Leclerc. I enjoyed Chocolat, but this is my favourite of the series so far because Vianne is at her strongest in my opinion. Now one that's very different, and I think a series I'm going to actually reread next year, because I think this is going to be one of my reread series. I think I read the series last year, but I read 2 books one year and 2 books last year, but I think I want to read the series back to back next year. And this is the Why Mummy Drinks series. I don't know the name of the mummy in this because I cannot for the life of me remember. But the reason why I love her, and I love her with a passion, is that she shows motherhood in the very real way. How often my kids drive me to a gin, I don't know. Why Mummy Drinks? Because they do. They drive you bloody insane. Motherhood is not all guns and not all roses and pitch pocket fences and everything's perfect, because it isn't. It's bloody hard work. When they're fighting, when they're killing each other, you really want to scream. Scream your hands out. And this is like, and this is like, motherhood gets portrayed like you go to all these mum and baby groups, and you do yoga, and you're so perfect, and you love being a mum, and they're the centre of your world. But actually, you lose yourself so much in this. Like, and I think this is why I read this series, and it was like, finally, people got me, because I'm not one of those mums that goes to all these mother and baby groups and does all this. I didn't do all that. I struggle, I swear, I get angry, I'm human. But mummy doesn't want to go quietly into the good night of women with sensible haircuts and live for their children and stand in the playground. No, I love my kids, but I love them more now that I found me. And that's why I love their mum in this book, because she really says it as she sees it. This series is written in diary entries. I think this is written over about a year. Yeah. So this book here starts in September and it goes to August. So it's done in diary forms over the year. We've got My Mummy Drinks, Why Mummy Swears, My Mummy Doesn't Give It, and Why Mummy Gets Sloshed. This series is so real. If you want motherhood in a very real way, I thought it was non-fiction at first, but it's actually fiction. But she's got a new book coming out for the start of a new series, which is coming out in May, and I'm going to get it. I loved it. I loved the writing. It made me crack up flipping laughing. That's why I love that, the mum in that. And now these are a series of non-fiction books. Now, Cathy Glass is her pen name. It's not her real name, but she's a foster carer. I love Cathy Glass books because she's telling, each book is on a different foster child she looks after. This is one that I haven't read, but because I don't keep them once I've read them, I find, but I do go into it. This tells her stories of each foster case she has and each foster child. Over 25 years fostering, carer to more than 150 children. Cathy Glass is a single mum who's a foster mum, and each book tells the true life stories of the foster children she comes into place, what their battles, what it's like, and obviously I can relate to that because my mum was a foster mother, although she had my dad to support her he was always doing it, but... And she's got 2 blood children of her own, and she's got 1 adopted child. And you'll meet them all in this. And I think she's amazing. I love reading her foster care books. The fact is, being a foster parent is not easy. I don't know what it's like now, but when we were growing up, you get some children come to you very distressed. You can't obviously talk at each case alone, but it's hard. But then when you see them children grow while they're at your home, it's incredible and it's very rewarding, and I love it. So that's Cathy Glass is my mum for that. Then we've got the mum in this book, which is obviously, you guys know, is one of my favourite books of all time. But it's actually not Leah who's the central character in this. It's actually Leah's mum, who's the foster mother of so many children. The fact is, again, she's a foster mum. She looks after Leah. She is, again, this is one of the first non-fiction books that's got foster care in, fiction books that's got foster care in that I loved. And I found her really great because her foster children come back to the home. She never lets them go. She connects with so many of them, which I kind of wish we had in some ways, looking back. But Leah is her only blood child, but then she has a million of adopted or fostered children. And watching her in this book, although I will warn you, Angie Henderson, she said this is a very, very emotional book. So yeah, just thought it was absolutely incredible, but one I thoroughly recommend. And it's also about my favourite author. Then the penultimate book is, obviously, you've got to say Mrs. March in Little Women. She's one of the best mothers. This is one of my favourite classic mums. There's not very many classics with mums that are portrayed very well. But she has 4 girls, Meg, Jo, Beth and Amy. And they are very different and they have their own very stories. But Mrs. March is in the background and she is very chilled out. And it's very, very good. And I think you really look up to her. And her husband's absence at war. So they don't have much money, but Mrs. March looks after her girls and accepts that they're very individuals, very, very different. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful book. And I loved it. And then lastly is, actually, again, she's a grandmother more than a mum. But obviously grandmothers, they have their children. It's just their connection with their grandchildren is actually important. And this is obviously The Switch. Everyone's heard of it. By Beth O'Leary. It's one of my favourite books. And it is about Eileen. And this is where Eileen is she swaps her lives with her granddaughter, Lena, there you go. And this is where Eileen has got grief. They've lost someone, a member of their family. And she goes off and she finds her life. When she switches life with her granddaughter, she finds a life she didn't know. And she meets people and she goes out and she's like, but she's also supporting her granddaughter because she's like, she knows her granddaughter needs this break. And I love that, you know. I would love to have both my nans back, but my mum's mum was just my idol. And now I still think in my decisions that I make as a mum, what would she do? I asked my mum for her advice. And I think grandmothers have just as important roles as mothers. And I think we should celebrate them on Mother's Day as well. And that's what we're going to be doing this year. So, what are your favourite mums in books? Are there any mums that you really want to stand out about? I have also got an honorary mention. We have to say Molly Weasley in the Harry Potter books. And like I said, I don't support Harry Potter. I'm J.K. Rowling, but Molly Weasley is my favourite mum in those books because, again, she's got loads of children. She's the ultimate mum. She looks after her kids, and watching her fight for them is just incredible. I love watching that. I love her in the films. I think in the films, Julie Walters' character is amazing. I think that's what I've got to bring out of that. But I don't want to do that honorary mention. Anyway, like I said, what is your favourite mums in book? Which mums have really stood out to you? I wish you all a happy month for all those mums online. I hope you have a great Mother's Day and I hope you get spoilt rotten. My Mother's Day treat is going to be watching my little girl, Mia, on Mother's Day doing a dance performance that evening. So that's my Mother's Day treat. Take care, guys. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling. And I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.